Welcome to this month's CCI video update. We're pleased to be able to talk today with representatives from the Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation, where we hear good things are happening. Please allow me to welcome Stephanie Crandall, who is the Director of Student Support Services for Evansville Vanderburgh, and Kim McWilliams, the district's Chief Officer. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. So we're just going to jump right in because I hear so many good things are happening in Evansville. Can one of you tell me what comprehensive counseling model or framework you selected for your school counseling program and how that implementation is going?
Yeah, thanks, Amy. We're following here in Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation, the ASCA national model. And we kind of started this in 2017. This journey began in 2017, moving from random acts of guidance to really a model program that we have and moving forward, with best practices, starting with our PLCs, our professional learning communities, with each one of our counselors meeting, whether it's in person or now using the technology that we so are used to after the COVID pandemic. So, and thinking about coaching, and Stephanie's a coach for our middle schools and our K-8s and our high schools. So she really has that pulse on what's going on and hearing from our school counselors in the schools, listening to them, things that we can support from a district level, but then moving forward to the best practices. In fact, curriculum development. In 2017, as I mentioned, we had random acts of guidance. We have great counselors all across our district, but we didn't have anything fluid across. So now we have lessons that are K-8s or K-5s or 6-8s or 9-12s really do, and it scaffolds and builds upon and reaches the Indiana School Counselor standards, as well as ASCA mindsets and behaviors. So we're really confident on that as tier one, making sure all students are getting these lessons, and then using the data to identify students that might need a tier two approach on anything that's given throughout individual schools. And those school counselors really look and use that data from that ASCA national model to continue that.
I really like how you are purposefully moving away from random acts of guidance. That's one of my favorite terms. I like that. That's something we need to work on. Stephanie, can we go just a little bit and talk about kind of coaching and how that helps? I love the idea of coaching your counselor.
So like he said, we've truly shifted to this coaching model where we are working to support our schools. We're working with the administration as well in their buildings, helping our counselors and lifting them up so that they can advocate for their profession, advocate for the non-counseling duties, while educating the administrators as well as to what the role truly looks like. So like Kim said, in 2017, I was a part of that team that wrote for Lilly. And so we looked at everything we were doing in the district and what we needed to do differently so that we could really provide optimal supports for our students, families, and schools. And so one of those things that we moved forward with was coaching. And so we built a model much like the teachers use as well. And so we would go out into the schools, and we do now. We go out, we coach. Kim mentioned an ASCA modified rubric earlier. That is something that our district built, and we built upon the RAMP rubric. And so that's where we started. We kind of started with ASCA 101 in our district because a lot of folks who had been around for a long time had no idea what that looked like. So when we present and we share with people, we say, you have to start somewhere. Start from the beginning. And one of the things that we did is we coached our people as well. So we were in that journey with them and walking through. And as we would do our checks, we would say, okay, we're going to work on vision and mission. So in our PLCs, we would work on that. In our coaching, we would talk through that. Then we would encourage them to do their administrative conferences. Well, what does that look like? So through the Lilly initiative, we were able to bring hatching results on as well. And so we started from the very beginning. And so we're really proud of where we are. But as Kim said, as we all know, the journey just continues. So we're grateful for Lilly and, for any funding that we get in the future to continue the work.
It sounds like a lot of good hard work, but it's probably ends up being a time saver instead of the other way around, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, can you expand a little bit and tell us about some of the strategies or activities that you're excited about and how the work you've done has moved you closer to the aims of the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative?
Sure. Another thing, and Kim can share at any time, but what we did was we developed from the very beginning what we call our comprehensive counseling team. So one of the things that we knew that we needed to look at, an activity we actually use with our counselors, our social workers, our psychologists. We have some folks in neuroeducation department. We call them gain support specialists. And so all of those folks came together, and we looked at, where are you landing in tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3? And we noticed where some things were not where they needed to be. And so we decided, okay, let's really truly look at roles and responsibilities. Where are there overlaps? Where are there gaps? So we defined each and every role. We also developed and improved upon our current evaluation rubrics that we had, and we ensured that each area had a rubric and it was all aligned. And we also looked, there's a great Venn diagram out there that shows you, and it's been around for many years, but it shows you this is what a school counselor, here's where a school counselor lands, here's where a social worker lands, here's where a psychologist lands, here's the overlap. So we created for our district what we call a comprehensive counseling team to ensure that we're supporting all students and we're not duplicating services. So that was something really that we're very proud of.
And Amy, you can see on my shirt here, we call it the CCT. So we don't have to keep going through those roles. It's our comprehensive counseling team. And we have the domains in there, if you will, of college and career, academic, social, emotional, with those tier 1, 2, and 3 moving up. So we've kind of tried to brand it. And now, as Stephanie talked about earlier, our administrators, and even from our superintendent on, who's even taught a university course for school counselors on how to be a school counselor he's the superintendent teaching that at a local university. So it's really great. And he understands, then he just says CCT. Everyone in our district understands what the CCT is. It's our comprehensive counseling team. So we're not duplicating services, but we're really complementing what everyone else is doing. And we kind of went through, which we do in our district, the Plan, Do, Study, Act. We, as Stephanie talked about, we planned it out. We did it, we studied it, we acted upon it, and now we kind of see how we can kind of operationalize and sustain it moving forward with or without additional funding, right? It's something that we do now in our district, and really understand whose role it is to take care of this, and make sure they're having those conferences to communicate with one another.
I'm getting excited. I want to come visit Evansville.
Do that, and
Yes,
come
please.
on down.
Yeah. So can you give me a story or two about something that you're excited about that's, worked?
The curriculum that Kim's mentioned, that has been wonderful. The education that has happened through this grant, that's so exciting. And he mentioned evaluation earlier, and just to expand upon that for individual counselors, I often get calls from building administrators that say, we'd really like you to evaluate our counselor. And so Kim and I, we don't do that. And the reason we don't do that is because we want them to truly understand what the school counselor role looks like. So instead, I say, I will be glad to come out and support you, walk through the rubric, talk together with you and your counselor. So really to help build that team and understanding of what that should look like, and also help the school counselors to advocate for what their role should look like. So I do think some of the things we mentioned are really great wins for us. Also, one of the things that we're really proud of is our partnerships with colleges. We have a Grow Your Own program. So through also the Lilly initiative, we have been able to have a Grow Your Own cohort model. We've been in partnership with ISU. We've looked at, we're potentially looking at some other universities, because we are teaching them from day one, not only the ASCA best practices and a practitioner approach in our schools, but we're also teaching them what it looks like to be a school counselor within EVSC, because we are a very large district. So, we all know we have been new employees where you feel a little bit lost. So just coming into a large district in general as a new employee, learning that, and then on top of it, learning your role. So we walk them through all of that. They have support from us. I help supervise and teach with the university, but then also we pair them with school counselors within our district as well to work alongside of them.
I'm pretty sure we could talk about this for the rest of the time, but I would like to go on a little bit and talk about, can you tell me about community organizations or partners that your school counseling program collaborated with? And how did that community partnership go?
Stephanie mentioned our counseling advisory group, what we call CAG, right? We love acronyms in education. So it's CAG, right? But those were partners that we probably had in our district for many years, but we became more intentional about partnering and focusing in with our CCT, our counseling work that we were doing. So they were part of those conversations in the past, but they became more intentional about 21st century scholars, if you will, and how we could partner together with Ivy Tech and our school counselors, making sure that we're getting our students signed up for that, FAFSA nights that we had.
Some of the things that we do now is we record lessons, we utilize our teachers as well, we send things home, we have a learning at home component. So with all of our lessons, we have created a learning at home component with just a few points for parents to say, this is what your child learned today, much like a teacher would do. So we send that home if it's 21st century scholars, here's what we taught your child today, here's what we talked about, and here's the link on how to enroll and what you can do.
We even give them some prompt questions rather than being a dad like myself and saying, what did you do at school today? And my son saying, nothing. It's like, well, I know you did something. So we give them prompt questions. You talked about college and career lessons in your school today. You might ask your son or your daughter, what job do you think you might want to do? What jobs were in your school that we talked about at a kindergarten level? So we give the families prompts to help them kind of start that conversation along the way.
And, as we've been working with counselors around the state, we've heard so many stories about how communities aren't supporting counselor initiatives, especially if they're in the social emotional domain. And some communities are struggling with that, accepting that. So it sounds to me like you've already built some deep relationships with your parents. So maybe that misinformation and misunderstanding is a little bit easier to navigate. Is that true?
Yeah, I think so. The accepted neuroscience really leads to what we're talked about during COVID. If we're calm, alert, and ready to teach, most of our students are going to be calm, alert, and ready to learn. And so our parents are hearing that, and we're having that learning at home discussion, if you will, and our community partners, our news agencies are really talking about that as well. So I think that leads to higher academics, better attendance, right? So we all understand that as adults as well, the things that we're talking to our students that we have to practice ourselves. So yeah, I think that trust, that relationship is built, and then it's deepened when things like that come up, Amy, as you talk about. It allows us to have the conversation, to have the dialogue. We don't always have to agree on everything, but we understand we all have the best interest in heart, and that's our students in the center of everything that we do.
Excellent. That's good to hear. So I want to shift gears just a little bit here. So one of the things that's really important to the endowment is that we talk about sustainability. And how are you intending to sustain some of the programming, some of the personnel, some of the services, resources that you've had through the CCI grant? How will you maintain those?
Yeah, I'll start and Stephanie jump in, but I think, and that's one of the things that we had in mind at the very beginning. Love what the Lilly Endowment has done for us and helped us through this journey in the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative. But we started from day one understanding how do we align what we're doing to what academics are doing. So then it's a give and take. So our lessons that we develop on lesson plans, really we brought in the academic person. So I would say to any district out there that may not have funding, you don't need the funding. You have someone in your office that is working already on mapping out curriculum. It's the same thing we did. We mapped out our counseling curriculum. We mapped out, and we had it with our social workers, our host CCT on board. So to sustain that moving forward, we have internal coaches. Stephanie has other roles in our district, and other coaches that we have other roles. But they also have a role of supporting our school counselors and understanding, building those relationships we talked about with our families and students, but also with our administrators. So they know that the importance of the school counselor is really going to help their mission and vision of a school administrator as well. So sustaining that was probably from the very beginning a goal that we had in mind. Continuous improvement, making sure that we continue with our process of Plan, Do, Study, Act, which is what we do every day, right? In a district of our size, and a district of smaller sizes could do this as well, because you have school counselors. If you don't, there's a way to grow your own partnership with universities to start with there and then move forward.
When you have funding, that's wonderful as well. That adds to it and that helps. But even if you don't have funding, again, like Kim says, we always go back to that. What can you do without the funding? And so we started from day one with a team of folks. And so, and we've changed and evolved throughout this process. And now we kind of have a core curriculum writing team of folks who are in the trenches working as school counselors. So we're not at the district creating lessons for them. We are helping and we are giving feedback and walking alongside them. And so those are some things that we're building sustainability. You know, our PLCs, our coaching model, you know, that is now sustainable because we have built that along the way. The ISU cohort, it is sustainable. Does it look differently depending on funding? Absolutely. But we are still continuing to sustain and build upon that program so that people are better equipped to come in from day one and be a school counselor and feel like they're equipped to be in that role.
Wow, you are probably the most purposeful people I've talked to in a long time. I really, really appreciate your insight as to what you're capable of doing for school counselors. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you for that, Amy. I think our role, you know, is not to see step 1 or step 2. It's to see step 7 or 8 and kind of look around the corner, if you will. Yeah. And I think that's what our Lilly Endowment and the Comprehensive Counseling Initiative has helped us do.
Well, I really do appreciate your time today. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to share with our listeners or the endowments?
Yeah. One of the things I would say, Amy, and that we always say, and I know that Kim would agree with this is not an easy process, but we are both very passionate, as you can tell, about school counseling, supporting our schools, our students, our families, and you do have to start somewhere. It does seem very overwhelming. And right now, as we talk about it, to some, it may seem like, oh, this is easy. You know, you guys have done all this and it is not easy. But if you're passionate and you're willing to work and people see your passion and they come along with you, then it's a great journey. And you have to start somewhere. So anytime we present, we say, start small. If you're a small district and there's a couple of you, just meet, get another counselor with you together and meet. And guess what? There's a PLC right there. Mm-hmm. And be very intentional when you meet for a PLC. Talk about how are we going to do this and how can we do this together? And what resources do you have that you can share with me? And again, we say there's always someone in your district. If you're educated, then you're ready to go and advocate.
Excellent. Well, I almost hate to end this conversation. You guys have so many good things to tell us about, but I do want to thank you, our guests, Stephanie Crandall and Kim McWilliams, once again for joining us today. I'm Amy Porteous from Inspire Success, and I wish you and our listeners all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.